The primary election results are coming in. The polls closed 2 hours ago. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Stella Daskalakis.
I'm Mike Woolfolk. We have team coverage of the key races tonight, beginning with the race for governor. For the Democrats, the Associated Press called this election around 9 o'clock tonight, citing Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson as the winning candidate over Genesee County Sheriff Swanson.
And on the Republican side, Congressman John James leads with 51% of the vote. The 12% of the votes have been tallied to Perry Johnson's 36%.
Mid-Michigan Now political reporter Remington Hernandez begins our team coverage. He is with the Benson campaign in Detroit. Remington, good evening.
Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson embraced her family as she declared victory here in Detroit. This was a result that had been widely expected, though it was a contested primary. The polls had shown her ahead for some time. The key points of her now general election campaign: costs down, wages up, and a government that works for all Michiganders. Let's take a listen to some of what she had to say.
Because that is the question facing voters this fall, my friends. Who do you want Michigan's leaders to work for? The people or the powerful? Well, you all know who I'll work for. I will work for all of you and every Michigander in this state. Not the highest bidder, not corporate interests, not Donald Trump, you.
Benson said that there will possibly be a record number of voters in this primary, and she touted her win as a landslide and is asking Michiganders to give her another landslide in November. Another theme was a Democratic trifecta. She would like to see another Democratic trifecta. And there were state lawmakers here, state senators. Some got on the stage and spoke, including Senator Darren Camilleri and Mallory McMorrow. There was also sitting Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist, who is running for Secretary of State. He was up here, and Ellie Sabat, who is running for Attorney General, was mulling around in the crowd as well. They're going to be joined at the hip, as it were, to get each other elected, as they also seek to keep those three positions blue as well. Already, Benson's campaign saying that they are ready for the general election with $6.4 million in cash at hand, and they've already put forth $10 million in reservations for ad buys on television and online, so something to watch there. But for now, here live, I'm Remington Hernandez in Detroit. Let's hand it over to Autumn Pitcher, who is standing by at the John James campaign. Autumn, it's looking good for James out there, isn't it?
Yes, John James is leading in the polls right now ahead of his opponent, Perry Johnson. You can see there are dozens of his supporters in this room in Sterling Heights. Lots of excitement here tonight, and they are eagerly awaiting for James to make a speech. Now, many supporters are confident James will come out on top. Those we spoke to say they voted for him instead of his opponent, Perry Johnson, because he leads with faith, is a veteran, longtime businessman, and they believe he will make Michigan more affordable again. Now, James plans to repeal the state income tax, which he says will save Michigan families thousands a year. He also wants to improve education and is focused on protecting the environment. The congressman also is endorsed by President Donald Trump, and that is the reason why many people inside this room and outside this room feel like he will win tonight. They're confident in that. Now, James is expected to make a speech. We just spoke with his campaign, and they say that he will speak once this race is called. And of course, if he does win tonight, he will of course face off against Democratic nominee for governor Jocelyn Benson in the November election. Reporting live in Sterling Heights, Autumn Pitcher, News Channel 3.
Thank you, Autumn and Remington. Our Courtney Bennett is joining us live now. She's in Saginaw, where Democratic candidate Sheriff Chris Swanson is with friends, family, and supporters.
He has spent the last 500-plus days campaigning to be Michigan's top leader. It doesn't appear that that's going to go forward, but he calls himself a working-class candidate. And Courtney, what else can you tell us tonight? What's the mood like over there?
Mike and Stella, you can see behind me that supporters of Chris Swanson, they are still gathered here at the Union Hall. Many of them, they're the ones that knocked on doors for the past 544 days since February 6th of 2025 when Swanson announced his bid for governor. They're the ones who made the calls, and really tonight they're celebrating despite the race being called by the Associated Press. When we heard from Swanson earlier today, he spoke at the podium this evening, and he credited everyone who helped him with the campaign, from door knocking to endorsements. For Swanson, it was important for him to lay it all on the table, and he says he put everything into the campaign. We spoke to him prior to the AP calling the race. Here's what he told us about why it was important for him to go after what he calls something new.
That's who I am as a person, you know, and I think especially in politics, people don't see that authenticity. They don't see that somebody who's doing this really has good intentions. I'm not perfect, but I have good intentions. And so I said from the beginning, I said, I'm not gonna win by being somebody else. I would rather lose being who I am. And right now, we have a great chance of winning, and we are who we are when we started, with a lot more experience.
Back out here live in Saginaw, I asked Sheriff Swanson about why he chose this Union Hall, Local 85 here in Saginaw. He says that this was one of the very first endorsements that he received from the labor workers here. So for him, it was important to celebrate here tonight. Now, we're going to continue our election team coverage tonight. I'm going to send it to Colin Roos, who was at the Perry Johnson campaign in Troy. Colin?
The mood at the Perry Johnson party tonight is optimistic here in Troy. People are walking in wearing not only Perry Johnson campaign shirts, but also one supporting President Donald Trump, with many telling me they believe that his vision aligns with the president's. Now, Johnson has never held political office and has positioned himself as going against the political establishment in Lansing. He's made financial accountability a main point of his campaign. Now, signs around the room read 4747. Johnson wants to eliminate the state income tax and lower property taxes, and says $4,747 is how much an average family of four will save. The Johnson supporters I spoke with feel distrustful of the direction of the Democratic Party and Lansing leadership more broadly.
I think there's a lot of cronyism from the township hall all the way to Washington, D.C., and I think most Americans would agree.
The direction of the Democratic Party now today, I'm not sure I'll even stay in Michigan. It's that bad.
Education was also a priority for his voters. One teacher told me she wants him to put more pressure on schools to get results for their students. Now, Johnson's financial support for his own campaign also impressed supporters, some of whom said they supported John James at first. In Troy, I'm Colin Roos.
Colin and Courtney, thank you very much for those updates. For a complete list of all the races and results happening across Mid-Michigan, all you have to do is go to our website, midmichigannow.com.